Okay, we seem to be slowing down there with participants, so we'll cap it or start it off, and hopefully a few more stragglers will come in there. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Chris Mann. I am the sponsorship specialist with the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's Navigating COVID-19 webinar. I'm really looking forward to the topic today. It has been an interesting challenge as we've all learned to adapt to a new way of working during the pandemic. As restrictions continue to ease and some of us return to our physical workspaces, the question becomes, what does a successful office look like in this new normal, and how do we strive to create one? There's going to be a new recipe for success when it comes to how we set up our offices, connect with our coworkers, and work efficiently. This is why I'm happy to welcome today Tina Prinsenberg of Office Interiors and Tim Coyle of Haworth. Haworth? Haworth. There you go. Both are joining us to provide some insight into how we can set up our office and our office culture for success. Tina works within the furniture division of Office Interiors as Business Development Manager and A&D Rep. She aims to provide her clients with a work environment that allows staff to be their most efficient. Looking at the culture of a workspace, the work styles and behaviors, as well as aesthetics and ergonomics, Tina is able to suggest space planning, product solutions to create a successful work environment that also adheres to safety guidelines for social distancing. Tim Coyle has more than 20 years experience in construction, project management, and acoustics experience. He is responsible for all sales activities for Haworth in the Atlantic Canada region. So thank you both for joining us today. We'll have time to answer questions at the end of the presentation, so please drop your questions in the Q&A box below, and we'll address those as the time allows us. If you're commenting in the chat box, I would encourage you to address your message to panelists and all attendees so everyone can see the post, as it may be to interest of all. There's an option to address your message to all panelists, which only I and the presenters will see. So now I'll kick it over to Tina and Tim. Welcome, guys.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sandra, for helping organize this presentation. And thanks to everybody who's joined the call. Per Chris's introduction, Tina and I are going to cover a topic today. I'm just going to get my video off here and dive right into the presentation. So we're going to talk about what we refer to as a return to the workplace. We've all been struggling the last several months, obviously, with what hopefully shouldn't be a new normal. However, we are starting to return to work, return to the work environment, and it's going to offer quite a few challenges to a lot of us on the call. In today's subject matter and presentation, we're hoping to just give you kind of a high-level perspective as to what you might be expecting when you return to your work environment, and some ideas, tips, and hints as to how you can transform your floor plate to this new normal while still supporting the well-being of employees, preserving the ever-important culture of your particular company, and we'll dive right into it. So our new normal. So here's some new considerations we all have to consider. People are going to be returning with the weight of this crisis and might be anxious about using their workspace. It's not going to be normal. It's not going to be what we're used to. So employees need to feel secure about maintaining their well-being while back at work. And some of the things that we need to think about while coming back to the office, and those of you who are on the call who are in control of facilities or have to think about this type of thing, you might own your own business or be in that position. You have to consider physical distancing norms. They're new. There's going to be elevated health and safety concerns by employees. There's the need to find a balance for creating personal interaction space and a balance of virtual collaboration, which of course we're doing right now. Short and long-term workplace changes to be implemented. So from facility needs to work rotation and possibly sequenced return for employees coming back to work. And the goal, of course, is to keep employees safe, confident, and effective. So the presentation kind of is a high level one, and we deal with the entire floor plate, potential floor plate of the typical office to the individual work points within the office space. So here's some quick ideas to start off with. So understand the work that needs to be done, your current workplace utilization, and how you might be able to change that to the new normal. Here are some considerations. Consider your lobby and entry points, the facility flow within the floor plate itself, and circulation areas. So really what we mean by that is, should you introduce maybe one-way streets, so to speak, within the workplace environment so that the flow of people allows for as much physical distancing as possible, much like we've all experienced in grocery stores. Determine where interaction and collaboration might take place. It might be different than in the past. Add some employee options for more mobility and flexibility to leave those densely populated areas. That includes work from home strategies. And repurpose some of those collaboration areas to individual work areas to address any density issues. So what you're seeing in this graphic, the green circle has to do with employee well-being in the corner here. And employee well-being are things like views of nature, access to daylight. These are all known to reduce stress levels within the work environment. Organizational culture, this is more of an orange area here. So maybe start to think about utilizing open collaboration areas just to support visual connection while still maintaining that social distancing. And thirdly, transforming the floor plate. So convert some unassigned spaces to assigned spaces just to address the density challenges, because very few people, I'm sure on this call, very few people who own and operate or live in buildings, commercial buildings in North America, have the luxury these days of expanding their footprint just to accommodate physical distancing. So we need strategies to accommodate our existing footprint. Remote work is playing a huge role and will be playing a very large role moving forward. We've all, of course, experienced remote work. I think a lot of us have been pleasantly surprised if it's the first time that there's been a lot of remote collaboration going on. It can be quite effective. So let's look at this remote work strategy. So you should introduce guidelines that can balance personal interaction and collaboration. So that's both virtually and physically within your existing building. And to do that, excuse me, you want to identify the total occupancy by floor plate. Now define the quantity of positions that are truly needed to work on site. So who or what role is really effectively needed to be on site every day? Determine which roles are optimal for remote work. So the opposite. So what roles have you experienced in the last couple of months, or can you think about moving forward that you might be able to optimize as a remote worker? Assessing your floor plate density level to meet physical distancing guidelines means you're going to be pushing some people out of their space by necessity. So determine the ratio of individual work points, that's workstations, work areas, and the maximum space occupancy you have. And of course, if the space doesn't allow, which most spaces won't, there will be a reduction of footprint required. Determine maybe a sequencing and work rotation for remote workers, meaning possibly not everybody is either a work from home employee or a work in the space employee, but there are ways to sequence people in and out of the office, say 2 days a week, 3 days a week, to allow for people to work both from home and in the workspace. You also should be concern yourself with maintaining your confident employees. This has to do with well-being, really, within the workspace. This is just an example, inspiration or recovery. We have to think about that with people. People are under a lot of stress right now. So personal control and safety needs additional emphasis and will be defined in different ways in the new normal. So consider further leveraging some of those spaces that already offer access to daylight, maybe resequence or reconfigure what the role of that space would be. Support mobility and access to retreat spaces if you're so fortunate to have that in your building or your workspace. And provide access to outdoor working spaces, especially this time of year. Lots of studies show that the more you allow your employees to gain access to the outdoors, the healthier and more confident they will be. Again, to maintain confident employees, this would be an example of focused work. So a lot of us in the old pre-COVID days working in very crammed workstations, kind of a Dilbert-like environment, let's say. That returning to that type of work may cause a little bit of extra stress on a lot of employees. So the ability to focus and do your work is going to be affected by that heightened stress level. So in order to provide more privacy and more confidence in your employees, you can introduce vertical space division. That just extra higher panels, introduce screens to workplaces, use storage options. You can use storage for privacy as well. You can consider orientation. The orientation you're seeing here is optimal for social spacing, the 6-foot distancing, being back to back as opposed to facing each other. And there is value in maintaining your existing workplace culture. Your culture is very important. The way your organization works, communicates, or innovates is just as important as your business strategy. So aligning this new approach, to the new way of working, will increase confidence and help connect your people while maintaining your culture. At Haworth and with Office Interiors, we have some tips and we have some information that you might be able to utilize if you wanted a deeper dive in this cultural viewpoint. Introducing a communication program is one example, and I'm going to try and get to this screen to share with you. So at Haworth, we do have an area called Spark. Hopefully you can see that on your screens, where you can go for some R&D and some of the studies we've done about different topics for the workplace. And this particular topic does deal with effective communication in the workplace and how that can support and effectively support workplace change. Go back to the presentation. Sorry, just gonna get there. Hold on just a sec. My apologies, I've got an issue with my mouse here. I'm trying to get my full screen to show. Here we go. I'm back, I think. So that's maintaining your culture. Again, there's 4 little tips: communication programs, so clear communication within your group. Employee mobility, I've touched on. Reinforcing cultures and values. Don't completely change your culture. Reinforce the culture that you've built and taken years to build. And group work technology, so possibly introducing things like Zoom or other ways to communicate while working from home. And make those changes with care. Don't just kind of abruptly alter the way that you've been doing work. And you want to preserve your unique culture by empowering your workforce. Leverage your space, as we've talked about, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about. Serves as a guidepost for people's needs and goals. And really, it's just about really concerning yourself with the stress levels and the new reality that a lot of employees will be exposed to, possibly starting, a couple of weeks ago, and definitely moving forward as things are relaxed. Some other things to think about: minimizing the risk of touching within a space. There is lots of technology out there that's touch-free, motion sensors, light sensors. There's even sensors that you can use to open doors. You wouldn't even have to open the door. Obviously introducing cleaning stations, so frequent cleaning and disinfecting of high-touch surfaces, high-touch areas. And you can extend to the outdoors. So I touched on it before: create a space for individuals to work outside. Even introducing plants. That's a great and inexpensive way to clean the air. And it's a beautiful introduction into any environment. And then learning from time at home. Is it possible to continue on with people working from home as a more agile approach? Who did work well from home, and can that continue? And then considerations for teams that would normally have to collaborate in the office that now can't collaborate. So you need to consider how they're going to continue to share their ideas. We'll jump into kind of some examples of making changes on the floor plate, some comprehensive solutions, some of the design implications you might have to consider, and then there are some product applications that are available. Here's the key design implications you're going to be facing. Remote workers, we've talked about that. Cleanliness, very, very important. There should be a brand new regimen for cleaning within any office environment. Safety is of a concern. There's new protocols in lobbies, receptions, security areas, etc. We may get to the point where, there may be temperature checks as you come into the lobby of any large office building. Density is the key here. Analyze your facility circulation, achieve appropriate distancing. Interaction and collaboration is key, both physically, in person, and remotely. User control. So are we providing your employees a variety of spaces to safely accomplish what type of work they're assigned? And introduction of technology. Again, Haworth does have documents that we've produced that have to do with care and maintenance, cleaning, textiles, disinfection. These are available if you have concerns about what you should be considering as far as care and maintenance and cleaning within a commercial space. Here's an example of a floor plate, large floor plate, in before COVID and after some of these ideas and strategies have taken place. And I know that the writing on this is very small. I apologize for that. However, you're looking at a floor plate initially. The density in here is approximately, I think, about 160 people. You can see there's various work areas. There's workstations, there's collaborative areas, there's cafes. There are some unassigned workspaces. That's in the blue here, if you can see that, and some unassigned members who might just drift in and out of work, what you might consider the gypsy workers, who don't necessarily have an assigned workplace, but find a place to come in and sit and work. The things to consider transforming this floor plate to the after are really, you're reducing the population of everyday 8 hours a day workspaces by about 60 people. So you're taking, roughly half of your population initially, a little less than half, out of the floor plate. And you can do this by transforming some of these spaces. Again, considering the lobby and the entry point, the facility flow and circulation areas, add options for more mobility and flexibility, repurposing collaborative areas, circulation paths need to be considered. At the end of the day, what you're left with is quite a bit more open collaborative capacity, quite a bit less open collaborative capacity and enclosed collaborative capacity, because those are typically the two large square footage areas that you can play with on any given floor plate to possibly allow for more people to sit. So you're going from a non-dense environment that exists to creating a more dense environment, just repurposing those spaces. So here's what we call an open plan scenario, or benching is the vernacular in commercial furniture. So this is not necessarily people who have been divided by panel systems. It's more of an open work environment. So you can see in planning for these scenarios, the before scenario, you've got 6 people working in this given footprint. Now we have to address the physical distancing, which is 6 feet, collaboration, user control. They're working face to face. There is not any high screens. So we're really working with a dense footprint here, What we're doing to alter this is we're going from 6 employees to 4 employees in the same footprint. So where do the other 2 go? This is where you have to consider possibly rotating in workers. There may be shared workspaces. So any given day of the 5 days a week, there's 4 people at the workstation and 2 people working from home. We've also introduced material options are a consideration here. If you have the ability, introduce surfaces that are easily cleanable. Fabric is not one of those surfaces. So the difference here is we've removed these fabric cushions on the storage, and then we've introduced higher screens. So a nice guide point for anybody on the call, if you're facing a coworker, minimally you'd want to have about a 50 to 52 inch barrier, and that's measured from the ground up, to accommodate task work and safely working face to face. Here's a typical workstation environment. And in this particular example, again, we're not really doing anything to the footprint, but the key here is orientation. So as you can see on the left, working face facing, let's say, this back wall, the workers, it's hard to maintain that 6-foot distance, but by simply reorientating so that people face back to back, you're really taking advantage efficiency-wise of creating as much space as possible. And then we've rearranged some of the storage elements to allow for this. This center island has a lot of storage, but people are side by side at one end. That can be reconfigured with a lot of products so that you move your storage and you increase the distance between the people using this as a work area. Thirdly, we've added some glass panels to increase the height around the workstations to offer more protection for the workers. Really, just in our experience, Tina and I, in the last few months, the quickest fix for most office environments is introducing some higher portable, easy to install screens to workstations if you do work in a workstation environment. Here's a different type of workstation. This is height adjustable tables. Typically this environment is a very small footprint. People are far less than 6 feet apart. So in the before, you're seeing quite a condensed area with a little lounge area. There are things you can do, like introducing modular partitions to create barriers, and then pulling work surfaces apart to create that physical distancing. In this particular case, we've added some privacy screens that are mobile. Things to think about, I mentioned it earlier, but cleanability. So laminate products are easier to clean, faux leather as opposed to fabric. Upholstered back task chairs can be cleaned. Polymer surfaces are good. Metal surfaces are good. And maybe limit the amount of accessories that might be hanging around that could capture anything and would be hard to clean. That might really have to do with a lot of work environments. People have a lot of pictures or plants or personal memorabilia. That stuff you might want to consider removing or reducing as much as possible. And here's a conference room. Conference rooms are pretty basic. I mean, they're large rectangles that seat a lot of people. So really your strategies here are to remove the ability for as many people to meet in the room. One key thing you can consider though is actually removing the entrance door to a conference room or keeping it open permanently. This does two things. It allows for better air circulation, as well as people don't have to touch the door handle consistently throughout the day to get in or out of a meeting room. And then we have to do with the introduction of possibly a home office program. I think most of us on the call have worked from home in the last few months. It's just as important to be ergonomically sound within a home office as it is to be ergonomically sound within your commercial space. So just saying to somebody, hey, you get to work from home a couple of days a week, or we're going to have you work from home a couple of days a week. If their home setup is sitting on a bench at the dining room table 8 hours a day, it's not really good for their well-being. So you can consider sourcing products that are ergonomically sound, maybe starting a home office program within your company where you supply the products for those employees who may be, for the first time, having to work from home. And honestly, it's fairly simple. Everybody needs a task chair, a good ergonomic task chair, a work surface, height adjustable. If you're lucky, height adjustability is great, and some monitor arms. Just these three elements alone can create a very ergonomically sound at-home workspace. Everybody has a unique solution. There's finding balance. You can tap teams of experts, etc. Because everybody on the call, you might be your own employee, a solo employee. You might be responsible for 20 employees or 50 employees. So you have to find a balance within your own space and your own solution. And we can offer help there between Tina and I. You know, we can start a discussion with you where we're going to give you some contact information here in the next slide, and just start the conversation, have a discussion. What are the concerns that you have? We have tools and resources to conceptualize what it might look like, where you are now, where you could be after maybe implementing some of these new normal applications, etc. And to engage us, the first step would just be arrange a listening session. We'll listen to what your current situation is, where you have your concerns, and we can certainly help with our expertise. and guiding you at least down the road to get to this new normal. Contact information is here. I'm with Haworth, obviously. Tina's with Office Interiors. We work as a team. Tina is at tprinsenberg@officeinteriors.ca. You can start with Tina. There's her phone number, or reach out to me, tim.coyle@haworth.com, and there's my number. And I think maybe through Chris and Sandra, we can have this information shared to you guys through the chamber. And that's it. I guess we can open it up to some questions now.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. That was great. The graphics in the presentation were awesome. Just to kind of see the visual side of things, it was really good.
Thanks.
So thank you for that. So we do have a couple of questions geared up for you here, and I'll just kind of put them out there, and then Tina, Tim, you decide who will take that question. That'd be great. So a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, and with our members being, a lot of our members being small businesses, what are some steps for small businesses that they can take that may not be able to invest in like a long-term solution, that maybe don't have the cash flow to do that right now for their office? What could they do to make sure that the safety protocols are there, but not have to heavily invest for long-term?
Right. You can go ahead and start, Tina.
Easy question, to start it off.
I mean, there are so many different solutions available depending on, culture and work styles come into play here a lot as well. Right out of the gate, when we sit down and kind of listen to their culture and their work needs and work styles, as well as their floor plate to assess their space planning, we can usually see there's really smart, easy ways to even stagger who comes into the office or when and how they use their spaces. And then, there's some ways we can reconfigure their existing furniture and just help retrofit existing. There's a lot of very easy ways without actually having to invest in too much, really. There's a lot of safety practices and behavioral changes we can do. Do you have anything to add to that, Tim?
Yeah, just further to what Tina said, honestly, when we have these listening sessions or have been dealing with this over the last couple of months, our goal is we sell furniture, but it's not to go in and replace everybody's existing furniture. Typically, the real quick fixes are, as Tina mentioned, just reconfiguration, which is using existing inventory. Orientation is really key, as I showed in one of those slides. And if you really need to invest in anything right out of the gate, it's just privacy screens. There's a number of types of privacy screens we have out there, from very affordable temporary screens to more permanent fixed screens, freestanding screens. Those are typically the 1, 2, 3 quick fixes that we can offer.
Okay, great. That's good. One thing I should mention before I jump into the questions, you let us know that your contact information, we'll be sharing that to all attendees, and those who registered, we'll be emailing that out afterwards. So we'll include that in the email, so they'll have that information.
Great.
Should organizations be looking at a long-term design right now with everything changing almost on a weekly basis?
Okay, I would say, honestly, because we're now used to things changing so rapidly, that no, I would not invest in a long-term solution. I really wouldn't. I think the short-term solutions that are affordable can get you over the hump, or get you over the hump to the next drastic change in decision-making. So we're seeing a lot of well-established, let's take the provincial government, for example. There's thousands of workstations in the provincial government. And they're fairly, they really are efficiently laid out in their environment. I mean, they're pretty tight together. So they haven't really gotten panicked and said, okay, we've got to buy 3 new buildings to do this. Their approach is kind of slow and go, and utilizing what Tina and I mentioned earlier, just as these temporary fixes, just to see how things shake out, that's a great question.
And to add to that too, regardless of whether you're a small business with not a lot of cash flow, or even a large one like the government, with resources available to adapt, I think it's, again, still so important to, what we do here is just to still inspire people to love the way they work and to feel comfortable coming into work. and also to help still constantly assess how we're going to help you guys create a positive, safe, and productive work environment. So that is still kind of the bottom line while incorporating the guidelines. So, you know, that still needs to kind of be top of mind when creating an efficient space. We don't want to shove everyone into, you know, 7-foot high Dilbert cubicles, you know, that might not suit their work style. And yeah, there's just no quick fix back to the 70s of having everyone in little pods like that.
Right. And it's so funny because you must see it because a lot of offices were kind of focused on being so open now. Like the new modern was kind of being a lot more open and having open workspaces and eliminating offices. Now it's almost like, do you go back and close everything off and shut things down where people aren't able to collaborate as much as they are now? It'll be a tough task to see. So you talked a little bit about confidence, Tina. So what's some ways to making like some tips for boosting a worker's confidence and coming back to the office that may be kind of hesitant with everything that's going on?
You know, I think it really, you know, it comes down to the leadership and communications from a company, and, you know, working with us that helps create that confidence of what they, how they reassure their staff. But, you know, it's getting people used to being aware of certain behaviors, you know, your traffic flow, washing your hands a lot, you know, just really kind of managing how they see their new space. Tim, I mean, I'd say here coming into our office, I'm working from the office now. We've been open and operational throughout COVID and throughout the lockdown, actually. And we all feel comfortable here. We haven't made any major changes. But what made me feel reassured was we had lots of discussions with our managers about what we felt comfortable with. We did make a few tweaks and we kind of worked through it virtually and started to slowly phase in, staggered till we got used to it. Yeah, Tim, anything to add? I kind of always come from a big conceptual area, and you're great with the actual nuts and bolts of black and white product.
No, I mean, that was great. I think just to kind of tally onto that question and the question before is, there's products out there, you know, my company has always kind of preached, building your floor plate foundation with flexible product that can do very easy and quick moves, adds, or changes. And so if there's anybody on the call or you have the ability, or in the future, you're going to plan a workplace or reconfigure, so you do have a budget put aside, just think about everything you put on that floor plate and make sure it is adaptable and can easily do moves, adds, or changes. So things like when COVID happened, you're in a much better position to react.
And I think that's why we've been lucky here, you know, being a furniture showroom, we're a living, breathing showroom, everything we work in. So we're lucky with these products that are so versatile. We've been able to adapt without making too many major changes, honestly. And on that point, actually, our showroom's still open for visits, but please book ahead. But we'd still love to have you by, and we abide by all safety guidelines. And again, whatever your level of comfort is relative to wearing masks or not, and all that.
Great, perfect. So we do have a question here from the audience. For those people still working from home, what are some tips for making your home office more ergonomic?
Okay, I'll start with that one. So I touched on ergonomics in home office. It's there's a general ergonomic guideline that we publish, actually, and I can share it with you to share. And it really has to do with posture. And when you're working, what we call task work is when you're sitting in front of a computer or a PC for hours at a time and you're typing or you're reading and you're working that way. You have to consider the height of the table you work at, the height of the chair that you're sitting at. And the idea is you want to have a relaxed posture when you're working. A lot of people, I don't know if you can see me on the video still or whatever, I can almost show this. But if I'm sitting in a chair, this is crouching and this is relaxed. This is the posture you need to be working at. You need to be relaxed. Make sure that your work surface you're working at is around 29.5 inches high and that the chair you're sitting in is adjustable. If you're lucky and you can work at a higher or an area where you can stand up, and work for a little while. That's important as well. Make sure you have lots of light. The ability to see outdoors is very important. So there's things that you can do at home to make yourself comfortable. The worst thing you want to do, though, is just to sit down on the only work surface in the house, which is typically the dining room table. And dining room chairs are not ergonomic chairs, so they're not great over a long period of time. And make yourself as comfortable as possible over that long period of time.
Right. Okay. So Tim, unfortunately, your video was a little bit choppy there, so we missed a little bit of your dramatic acting there.
No.
But we got some of it, and it was really good what we did see.
You look great, Tim.
Yeah, we do have a one-page proper ergonomic setup that I can share as well if you want to share it. And it's a really good, just bullet points as to what to consider.
Okay, perfect.
And again, this is where Office Interiors comes in as well. We want you to feel set up no matter where you are, whether you're 500 staff downtown or a one-man show working from home. There's lots of tips and tricks to help get you set up ergonomically correct that are really easy if you're existing. And or we can break down the number one product you might want to invest in, or if you had any budget you could phase in or help from your employer. We're setting up at home, there's 1, 2, or 3 products relative to most important to beneficial complementary add-on ergonomic accessories as well that we can break down for you. Lots of options out there, so we can help advise what suits you best or your budget or the look you're going for and all that.
Right. No, that's great. And I think a lot of the new normal is going to be people working from an office again, but also working from home and almost going in between, right? So this is helpful for both, which is great. What are some trends and innovations that you're seeing from some of your clients? Anything kind of cool that they're doing that you'd like to share with us that might be something of an idea?
Yeah, nothing from my point. There's been a lot of discussions on strategies.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It still kind of feels like early days.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been approached by our clients and we've been approaching them as well and having these conversations for getting them up and operational and feeling safe. But the real kind of innovative new ways that our clients have come up with ideas with or we have with them, it's still early days, wouldn't you say, Tim?
Yeah, the only thing I could reference is maybe the newest office complex that we've been part of that had a really intelligent design, and now this is pre-COVID, Stuart McKelvey's new offices in downtown Halifax. They really did integrate a lot of the philosophies prior to COVID happening of the right to light, open work plan areas, collaborative spaces. They have a fabulous outdoor deck, I guess, on the top floor of one of the wings that is all theirs, and it's thousands of square feet of area that employees can go and actually be out in nature. I mean, these are great ideas. They're not necessarily have to do with the new normal, but we can certainly share as we find some ideas that are coming through.
Okay. And then like sticking with that, when you're changing up your office space and maybe, changing your furniture or keeping the same furniture and just changing the logistics of it, what about when you're choosing materials now that are going to be really heavily cleaned a lot? Whereas before it may have been clean like, a couple times a week, but now it seems like a daily occurrence where you're really kind of scrubbing stuff down to clean it. Any suggestions on what people should be looking for?
We can go one of two ways with this. And again, Tim being such a product specialist, he can jump in maybe more with the nitty gritty, but I'd say already right out of the gate, because we sell commercial grade product, we already have the integrity of pretty high quality finishes and surfaces. And we're always mindful of that anyway. For instance, any soft seating, modular seating, especially in an area where there'd be high traffic or it's a public space or kids are around or, collaborative or meeting or people are eating, we always make sure to specify a great quality, maybe a vinyl or a fabric that has a stain repellent on it anyway, with keeping durability and cleanability in mind. So, and then relative to hard surfaces as well, we we only sell really great, durable, high quality products that can be easily cleaned and wiped down. So I don't want to get people too scared that they have to go to steel and plexiglass everything. It's a conversation we always have with any of our products anyway to assess those needs. But Tim, do you want to hop in with any other nuts and bolts?
No, that was perfect. Commercial grade furniture was always manufactured for a high amount of cleaning and cleanability. So that's why the surfaces are usually very hard surfaces, laminates or metals, glass, whiteboards. And then to Tina's point on fabrics, there's fabrics out there that are rated for high traffic areas. There's a whole governing body that looks after commercial grade fabrics. So you can't sell a certain type of commercial grade fabric unless it's been tested by that governing body. And it's some fabrics out there rated in our industry for 100,000 rubs, they call it. So it's very durable and it's meant to be cleaned often.
And that's our job. Our clients don't need to stress about it. We, you know, that's what we do all day, every day. We know the materialities needed.
Right. And I think that's a huge relief, because I think a lot of businesses going back are saying, you know, where do you start? Like, what are the first things that you have to worry about? And there's so much information out there. It's overwhelming. So that's really nice to have, you know, people like yourselves that can come in and just say, we've got this, we're the experts. Don't worry, we'll take it from here, kind of thing. So last question for me, and just if anyone would like to offer any other questions, please feel free. So what protocols should offices be looking at implementing in terms of like hygiene stations, health screening points, doors being held open, devices, signage, anything like that? What should they be looking at implementing, I guess, maybe first and then second, or what do you think?
I mean, just general social distancing guidelines combat the majority of the risks, especially if everyone there has, in their workspace, has the capability of maintaining that distance. I think when you're getting into more close proximity kind of work practices, that's when the temperature gauging and the additional hand sanitizing stations, I think, are mandatory relative to health and safety. We're lucky here, and with most of our clients that are just dealing with regular workspaces, maybe not necessarily manufacturing plants and more industrial stuff. It's just great signage and great education on traffic flow, on work walkways being wide enough that people feel comfortable and are mindful to give each other space. Postage on reminders of hand washing. And yeah, if you can, put out hand sanitizers or wipes, or have gloves and masks available to those who feel they would require them. That's all great. Tim, anything else?
No, not really. Just like what Tina mentioned about signage and stuff, that's called wayfinding in the industry. And I think there's going to be a dramatic change to the strategies for wayfinding to get in and out of buildings. I think the biggest challenge, and I haven't heard really a solution as of yet, is how to handle large office complexes and the elevator. I really don't know. I haven't heard of any grand solution yet that's efficient.
Luckily in Halifax, we don't have too many high rises, so
yeah,
people can really work on their Fitbit step counts and just get on the stairs, right? Yeah. I'm trying to stay optimistic about all this. I think short term, at least, our innovations just seem to add to our health and well-being, which is good. Because, I know COVID's been stressful, so it's all about mental health too. And yeah, I know key areas that, I find our clients are so laser focused on, first and foremost, people being comfortable in their desks. But, places where people would gather, like the coffee station, the copier, boardrooms, meeting rooms, break rooms. Again, it goes back to being mindful about communicating to the team about just instilling some routines. Make sure you have a 15-minute gap between each boardroom booking so that the last group can properly reset the chairs, all spaced out, wipe everything down, and just have everything feel orderly. Just take a bit more time to be mindful of how you're leaving your space.
Great. Yeah, that's all good ideas. Thanks so much. So before I close things off, do you have any last remarks, last points, pieces of advice? Tina, start with you.
Just to reach out. I don't want, you know, employers are excited to re-energize our local economy and be back to business and make their staff feel comfortable. There is a lot of information out there. Don't be stressed. Like, we've had the chance to digest a lot of it these last few weeks. So just come to us for a conversation. Again, we don't need to inundate you with, you know, product solutions. It starts at a high level, just kind of assessing your biggest concerns with your staff. And we'll go from there. Have a chat.
Great. Thanks so much. Tim?
Yeah, just echo what Tina says. We're prepared. We've been working for a couple of months, gathering information that we know commercial clients are going to need. And so we have access to it, and we'd love to share it with you.
Amazing. That's great. So thank you both. We really appreciate you joining us today. It was a great discussion, really great presentation. Again, I really enjoyed that. Thank you to everyone that joined us from a chamber member, or if you're not a member, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Just a reminder to everyone that Halifax Chamber is hosting more webinars every week with experts who are leading the business community and are pioneering the way to the new normal. To see our full lineup of events, head to halifaxchamber.com/events for a full schedule. And again, a reminder that this webinar is recorded and will be available to all attendees shortly on our YouTube channel. And thanks again for joining us, and have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.